Dr. Hyun-woo Park stared at his computer screen for the third time that morning. The numbers made no sense at all. His sonar equipment was showing something impossible deep beneath the Pacific Ocean. He rubbed his tired eyes and looked again. The readings were still there. The research ship Deep Explorer rocked gently in the calm waters above the Mariana Trench. Hyun-woo had been studying ocean currents for 6 years, but had never seen anything like this. His sonar was detecting massive metal objects buried under miles of ocean mud. These objects were huge, much bigger than any whale or ship. Captain Jin-ae Kim walked into the research lab, carrying a cup of hot coffee. She saw Hyun-woo staring at his screen with a confused look on his face. "What is wrong?" she asked. "Are you having equipment problems again?" Hyun-woo shook his head slowly. "Captain, you need to see this." He pointed at his screen. "The sonar is picking up something strange down there." Jin-ae looked at the screen and frowned. The display showed large rectangular shapes arranged in neat rows like a parking lot. The shapes were each about the size of a city block, and there were hundreds of them. "Your equipment is broken," she said. "There's nothing down there but mud and rocks." But Hyun-woo had already started running more tests. He switched to a different sonar system and ran the scan again. The same shapes appeared. He tried a third system and got the same results. "Captain, these are not equipment problems," he said quietly. "3 different systems are showing the same thing." Jin-ae felt a cold chill run down her spine. She had been sailing these waters for 15 years and knew every rock and trench, but she had never seen anything like this. "Run the scan one more time," she ordered. "Make sure the depth readings are correct." Hyun-woo ran the scan again and checked all the settings. The objects were buried 3 miles beneath the ocean floor. Each one was about 2,000 feet long and 500 feet wide. The metal appeared to be some kind of alloy that was completely unknown. Dr. Min-ho Lee, the ship's archaeologist, came running into the lab. He had been monitoring the scans from his own computer. "This is impossible," he said breathlessly. "These readings show manufactured objects that are clearly not natural." Jin-ae looked at both scientists. She had always been a practical woman who believed in facts and evidence, but the facts in front of her made no sense at all. "How many objects are we detecting?" she asked. Hyun-woo ran a quick count on his computer. "In this area alone, we are detecting over 300,000 objects. They extend as far as our sonar can reach." The number hit Jin-ae like a physical blow. 300,000 objects, each the size of a city block, buried beneath the ocean floor. It was impossible, but the evidence was right there on the screen. "What kind of metal is this?" Min-ho asked, studying the reading. Hyun-woo switched to his material analysis program. "The metal has properties I have never seen before. It appears to be some kind of composite material that is completely resistant to corrosion. Even after being underwater for thousands of years, it shows no signs of damage." "Thousands of years," Min-ho repeated. "How can you tell how old they are?" Hyun-woo pointed to another screen. "I took sediment samples from around the objects. The layers of mud and debris suggest these things have been here for at least 50,000 years. The lab fell silent as the 3 scientists tried to process what they were seeing. 50,000 years ago, humans were still living in caves and using stone tools. Yet here were manufactured objects that showed technology far beyond anything modern humans could create." Captain Jin-ae made a decision that would change the course of human history. She picked up the ship's radio and contacted Seoul National University Professor Eunji Cho. "This is Captain Kim on the Deep Explorer. We have made a discovery that requires immediate attention." "What kind of discovery?" Professor Cho asked. "We have found what appears to be artificial structures buried beneath the ocean floor." Jin-ae said, "The structures are massive and appear to be very old." "How old?" "Our preliminary analysis suggests they may be 50,000 years old." There was a long pause on the radio. Professor Cho was one of the most respected marine scientists in the world. She had heard many strange reports over the years, but nothing like this. "Captain, I need you to document everything you have found. Do not discuss this discovery with anyone outside your immediate crew. I am contacting government officials immediately." Jin-ae understood the implications. If these objects were what they appeared to be, then everything humans believed about their history was wrong. They were not alone in the universe, and they never had been over. The next several hours, the crew of the Deep Explorer worked frantically to document their discovery. They took thousands of sonar readings and collected dozens of sediment samples. The evidence was overwhelming. These were not natural formations. Dr. Minho Lee made another disturbing discovery while studying the object's shapes. These are not just structures, he announced. They are ships. What? Do you mean ships? Hyun Woo asked. Look at the design. Minho pointed to his screen. They have a clear front and back with what appears to be engine housings. These are spacecraft. The word spacecraft hung in the air like a bomb waiting to explode. Spacecraft meant that these objects had come from somewhere else. They meant that Earth had been visited by aliens thousands of years before humans had developed any kind of technology. Captain Janae felt the weight of responsibility crushing down on her shoulders. She was a simple ship captain who had stumbled onto the greatest discovery in human history in a few hours. Government officials and military personnel would arrive to take control of the situation, but for now she and her small crew were the only humans who knew the truth. Earth had been visited by an alien civilization so advanced that their technology still functioned after 50,000 years. Underwater, as the sun began to set over the Pacific Ocean, the deep explorer continued its scans. The sonar readings showed more and more objects stretching to the horizon. Each one was a spacecraft. Each one was evidence that humanity was not alone. The discovery would change everything humans thought they knew about their place in the universe. But first they had to figure out one terrifying question. If these alien ships had been here for 50,000 years, where were their crews and why had they chosen Earth as their resting place? The answers to those questions would come sooner than anyone expected. 3 weeks had passed since Dr. Hyun-Woo Park made his shocking discovery. The news had spread through government circles like wildfire, but the public still knew nothing about the alien ships sleeping beneath Earth's oceans. Dr. So Young Wang arrived at the Deep Explorer with a team of the world's best scientists. She was an archaeologist, which meant she studied alien civilizations that no one had ever proven existed. Until now, the team brought new equipment that could scan deeper and see more details. The results were even more frightening than the first discovery. Ships were found under every ocean on Earth. The Atlantic had 200,000 ships. The Indian Ocean had 150,000. The Arctic Ocean, which was mostly ice, still hid another 100,000 alien vessels. Lieutenant Commander Bo Ram Yoon commanded a small submarine called the Sea Wolf. Her job was to get close to one of the smaller alien ships and take detailed photographs. The Korean Navy had chosen her because she was their best deep-sea pilot. Bo Ram descended through 3 miles of dark water toward one of the alien vessels. Her submarine's lights cut through the blackness like knives. The ship she was approaching was still massive. Even though it was one of the smaller ones, it was 800 feet long and looked like nothing humans had ever built. The alien ship's hull was smooth and curved like it had been grown rather than built. Strange symbols covered its surface, and they seemed to glow with a faint light. Ba Ram had never seen anything so beautiful and terrifying at the same time. As her submarine got closer, something unexpected happened. The alien ship's hull began to glow brighter. The symbols started pulsing like a heartbeat. Bo Ram felt her submarine shake as powerful vibrations came from the ancient vessel. What is happening? She radioed to the surface. Dr. So Young Wang watched the readings from the command ship above. The alien vessel was drawing power from somewhere, and its energy signature was growing stronger by the minute. Get away from that ship immediately, she ordered Bo Ram, but it was too late. The alien ship's engines rumbled to life after 50,000 years of silence. The sound was so deep and powerful that it could be heard through the water for miles. The ship's hull blazed with blue light that lit up the entire ocean floor. Bo Ram's submarine was pushed away by an invisible force. The alien ship wasn't trying to hurt her, but it was protecting itself with some kind of energy shield. She watched in amazement as the massive vessel slowly began to rise from its bed of mud and sediment on the surface. Dr. So Young Wang saw something that made her blood turn cold. The ocean around their ships was beginning to glow. Other alien vessels were waking up. The first ship had somehow sent a signal to all the others across the Pacific Ocean. Hundreds of thousands of alien ships began powering up their engines. The glow from their hulls was so bright it could be seen from space satellites orbiting Earth. Detected massive energy spikes coming from every ocean. Dr. Taemin Kang was a language expert who specialized in ancient writing. He had been studying the symbols on The alien ships trying to understand what they meant. The symbols were unlike any human language, but they followed patterns that made sense. The writing tells a story. He announced to the research team. It talks about a great escape from something called the Devourer. What is the Devourer? Dr. So-Young Wang Askedtaemin pointed to his translation work. According to these symbols, the Devourer is something that eats entire planets and star systems. The aliens who built these ships were running away from it. The implications hit everyone like a hammer blow. These weren't invasion ships. They were refugee ships filled with aliens fleeing from some terrible enemy the ships had been hiding under Earth's oceans, waiting for the danger to pass. But why were they waking up now? Dr. Wang Askedtaemin continued reading the alien symbols. The ships were programmed to wake up when their enemy got close enough to detect them. The Devourer must be coming toward Earth. Around the world, coastal cities began reporting strange phenomena. Power grids failed as electromagnetic pulses from the alien ships disrupted all electronic equipment. Tidal waves formed as the massive vessels displaced millions of tons of water in Seoul. The government held emergency meetings. President In-soo Kim was briefed on the situation by his top military advisors. The alien fleet was so large and powerful that all of Earth's military forces combined couldn't fight even one of their ships. The aliens haven't attacked us yet. General Woo Jin-lee reported they seem to be defensive, not aggressive. But what happens when they fully wake up? The president asked. Nobody had an answer to that question. The alien ships continued rising from the ocean depths. Their hulls glowed brighter and their engines grew more powerful. With each passing hour, some ships were so large they created their own weather patterns when they surfaced. Dr. Min-ho Lee made another discovery while studying the ship's movements. They're not random. He announced the ships are forming into battle formations. Battle formations against what? Dr. Wang asked. Against whatever is coming, Lee replied. The aliens are preparing for war. Lieutenant Commander Bio Ram-yoon watched from her submarine as more alien ships rose from the depths. Each one was different in size and shape, but all were clearly built for fighting. Their hulls bristled with weapons that looked like nothing humans had ever imagined. The largest ships were mobile cities with populations that could number in the millions. The smaller ships looked like fighters and bombers designed for fast attacks. The medium ships appeared to be destroyers and cruisers meant for ship-to-ship combat as the alien fleet assembled above the ocean floor. One thing became very clear to everyone watching. These beings had fought wars on a scale that humans couldn't understand. They had technology that could destroy entire planets, and they were preparing to use it. But the biggest question remained unanswered. If the aliens were preparing for war against the Devourer, what did that mean for humanity? Were humans caught in the middle of an ancient conflict between cosmic powers? Dr. So-Young Wang received a priority message from Seoul. The government was assembling every scientist, linguist, and military expert they could find. Humanity needed to make contact with the aliens before it was too late. The alien ships continued their awakening process. Throughout the night, their energy signatures grew stronger and their formations became more organized. Whatever was coming, the Devourer was getting closer, and humanity was about to meet their new neighbors, whether they were ready or not. The next phase of human history was about to begin, and nobody knew if the species would survive it. Admiral Changmin Park stood on the bridge of the carrier, Seoul, watching the horizon glow with alien light. The joint international fleet he commanded included ships from 20 different nations, but they all looked like toys compared to the alien vessels rising from the depths. As humanity's senior naval officer, Changmin faced an impossible decision. The alien ships showed no signs of hostility, but their weapons could turn every major city on Earth into dust in minutes. Should he treat them as invaders or try to make friends with beings whose technology was beyond human understanding? Dr. Eugene Nam had been working for 3 days straight trying to develop a way to communicate with the aliens. She was Earth's leading expert on how different species might think and communicate. Her team had tried radio signals, laser pulses, and even nuclear explosions in space to get the aliens' attention. Nothing worked. The alien ships continued their mysterious activities, completely ignoring all human attempts at communication. They formed complex patterns above the ocean surface that seemed to have meaning, but no one could figure out What they were doing, we need to try something different, Dr. Nam announced at the morning briefing. Mathematics and music are universal languages. Any intelligent species should recognize prime numbers and harmonic frequencies. Admiral Park nodded grimly. It was worth trying anything at this point. The alien fleet was now fully assembled, and their energy readings were off the charts. If they decided humans were a threat, the war would be over before it started. Dr. Nam's team began broadcasting sequences of prime numbers toward the alien fleet. 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13. They repeated the pattern for hours while watching for any response. The alien ships continued their formations without any acknowledgement. Then they tried music, starting with simple mathematical harmonies. The Fibonacci sequence translated into musical notes, batches compositions, which followed precise mathematical rules. Even whale songs, which might represent another form of intelligent communication. For 2 days nothing happened. The aliens seemed completely uninterested in human attempts to communicate. Some government officials began suggesting military action before the alien threat grew even larger. Captain Dongwu Shin commanded the destroyer Inchin, which was positioned closest to the alien fleet. He had been watching the alien ships through high-powered telescopes and had noticed something others had missed. The ships are beautiful, he reported to Admiral Park. They're not just functional, they're works of art. No species that creates such beauty could be completely hostile. On the morning of the fourth day, everything changed. A single alien vessel, smaller than the others, but still massive by human standards, began rising from the Atlantic Ocean. Captain Shin watched through his telescope as the ship broke the surface without creating even a single splash. The ship seemed to ignore the laws of physics as it rose into the air. Water flowed off its hull like it was made of something that water couldn't stick to. The ship's surface was covered in patterns that shifted and changed like living artwork. Admiral Park ordered all human ships to maintain their distance and avoid any threatening movements. The alien ship hovered 50 feet above the ocean surface, directly between the human fleet and the alien Armada. Ambassador Haiwan Kim had been chosen to represent humanity in case first contact ever became possible. She was a career diplomat who spoke 6 languages and had negotiated peace treaties between hostile nations. But nothing in her experience had prepared her for this moment. The alien ship projected a beam of soft light that seemed to scan the human fleet. The beam passed over each ship for several seconds before moving to the next. When it reached Ambassador Kim's ship, the beam lingered much longer. Suddenly, Kim felt a strange sensation in her mind. It wasn't painful, but it was unlike anything she had ever experienced. Images began appearing in her thoughts. Images that weren't her own memories. She saw vast cities floating in space around distant stars. She saw beings of pure energy who had evolved beyond the need for physical bodies. She saw the history of a species that had traveled between galaxies for millions of years. The beings called themselves the Keepers, and they were the guardians of knowledge from 1,000 different civilizations that had been destroyed by something called the Devourer. Through the mental link, Ambassador Kim learned that the Devourer wasn't just a single creature, but a collective consciousness that consumed entire worlds. It absorbed the knowledge and technology of every species it destroyed, becoming stronger and more intelligent with each conquest. The Keepers had been fleeing the Devourer for eons, hiding their refugee fleets in the deep places of countless worlds. They had chosen Earth not just as a hiding place, but as a testing ground. They have been watching humanity for centuries, studying human behavior and development. What they found surprised them. Humans were different from every other species they had encountered. Most intelligent species were peaceful and focused on art, science, and philosophy. But humans were aggressive, competitive, and warlike, traits that most species considered primitive. However, the Keepers had realized that these same traits might be exactly what was needed to fight the Devourer. Every other species had tried to hide or run away from the cosmic predator. Only humans might be crazy enough to actually fight back. The mental images continued flowing into Ambassador Kim's mind. She saw the Devourer's path of destruction across the galaxy. Entire star systems turned into raw materials for its ever-growing fleet. Billions of sentient beings consumed and converted into extensions of its collective consciousness. But she also saw something else. The Devourer was coming toward Earth. It had detected the awakening of the Keeper fleet and was moving to destroy both species before they could unite against it. The mental link ended as suddenly as it had begun, Ambassador. Kim found herself back on the bridge of her ship, surrounded by concerned medical personnel. She had been unconscious for 6 hours while receiving the download of information from the Keepers. Admiral Park listened to her report with growing dread. The situation was even worse than they had imagined. Humanity wasn't just facing first contact with aliens. They were being recruited for an ancient war against an enemy that had never been defeated. The Keepers were offering humanity a choice. They would share their advanced technology and knowledge of the galaxy in exchange for human commitment to fight the Devourer. It was an offer that would transform human civilization overnight, but it would also bind humanity to a war they might not be able to win against an enemy that had destroyed civilizations far more advanced than Earth. The choice would have to be made quickly. The Devourer was already approaching the solar system and would arrive within 5 years. Humanity had 5 years to decide whether to hide and hope the danger passed or stand and fight for the freedom of all intelligent life in the galaxy. The age of human isolation was ending. Whether humanity was ready or not, they were about to become players on the galactic stage. General Wu Jinli stared at the holographic displays that filled the war room beneath Seoul. The images came directly from the Keeper database through Ambassador Kim's neural link, and they showed horrors beyond human imagination. The Devourer had consumed over 3,000 star systems in the past million years. Each conquest followed the same terrible pattern. The entity would arrive at a solar system and begin converting planets into raw materials for its fleet. Dr. Kyung-ho Park was Earth's best theoretical physicist, but even his advanced mathematics couldn't fully explain how the Devourer operated. The entity seemed to exist partially outside normal space and time, which allowed it to manipulate matter at the quantum level. It can turn an entire planet into energy in a matter of hours, Dr. Park explained to the assembled military leaders. The process is more efficient than anything we understand about physics. The Devourer doesn't just destroy civilizations, it absorbs everything they ever created or learned. The holographic display showed the Devourer's most recent attack on a world called Centauri Prime. The planet had been home to 8 billion beings who had created a peaceful civilization spanning their entire solar system. The Devourer arrived as a dark cloud that blotted out their sun. Within days, the cloud had engulfed every planet, moon, and artificial structure. The beings tried to flee in massive evacuation ships, but the Devourer consumed them all. What remained was nothing, empty space where a thriving civilization had existed for thousands of years. Even the star itself had been partially drained of energy to fuel the Devourer's growth. General Lee studied the tactical analysis that the Keepers had provided. Every civilization that fought the Devourer used the same basic strategy. They tried to build bigger weapons, stronger shields, and faster ships, but none of it worked. The entity learns from every battle it fights, Dr. Park continued. By the time it reaches a new target, it already knows how to counter any defense they might use. That's why it has never been defeated, the Keeper's leader communicated through Dr. Sujin Yang, who had volunteered for the neural interface procedure. The alien consciousness was ancient beyond human understanding, but its message was clear. Your species is different, the Keeper explained through Yang's voice. Every civilization we have encountered focused on defense and preservation. You humans think about attack and destruction. This may be the key to victory. Commander Jae-hyuk Moon led Earth's rapid response military team. He had been studying the Keeper database for weeks, trying to understand their military capabilities. The alien technology was impressive, but it was all designed for running and hiding. They have ships that can travel faster than light and weapons that can destroy moons, he reported, but they never developed strategies for hunting and killing their enemy. They always focused on escape. The Keeper consciousness continued its explanation through Dr. Yang. We have preserved the knowledge of 3,000 civilizations, but none of them had your species capacity for warfare. You think like predators, not prey. The revelation was both flattering and terrifying. Humanity's aggressive nature, which had caused so much suffering throughout history, might be exactly what the galaxy needed to survive, but time was running short. The Keeper's sensors had detected the Devourer's approach toward Earth's solar system, the entity was still several light-years away, but it was moving at incredible speed using technology that folded space itself. We estimate 5 Earth years until arrival. The Keeper announced that may seem like a long time, but the Devourer grows stronger with each system it consumes. It will be far more powerful when it arrives here than it was at. Centauri Prime President In-Soo Kim called an emergency session of the United Nations. The revelation about the Devourer had to be shared with world leaders before decisions could be made about humanity's response. The briefing took place in a secure bunker beneath New York City. Representatives from every nation on Earth listened in stunned silence as Ambassador Kim shared the Keeper's knowledge about their ancient enemy. Some leaders argued for immediate surrender. They believed humanity should try to negotiate with the Devourer or at least avoid drawing its attention. Others demanded that Earth's nuclear arsenal be prepared for use against the approaching threat, but Admiral Changmin Park understood the true scope of the problem. Nuclear weapons would be useless against an entity that could absorb the energy and convert it to its own use. Conventional military thinking wouldn't work against the Devourer. The debate continued for hours while the Devourer moved closer to Earth's solar system. Every minute wasted was a minute less to prepare for the coming battle. Dr. Min-Ho Lee made a disturbing discovery while analyzing the Devourer's movement patterns. The entity wasn't just traveling toward Earth in a straight line. It was systematically destroying every potentially habitable world along its path. It's not just hunting the Keepers, he announced. The Devourer is making sure no other species can evolve to threaten it. This is about preventing any challenge to its dominance over the galaxy. The news made the situation even more desperate. The Devourer saw all intelligent life as a potential threat that needed to be eliminated. Humanity couldn't hide or run or negotiate. Their only choice was to fight or be consumed. The Keeper consciousness revealed one final piece of crucial information through Dr. Yang. The Devourer had a weakness that no previous civilization had discovered. The entity's need to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously made it vulnerable to certain types of attacks, but exploiting that weakness would require combining Keeper technology with human tactical thinking. It would mean transforming Earth's military into something completely new and unprecedented. The choice was clear. Humanity could accept the Keeper's offer and risk everything in a war against an impossible enemy, or they could refuse and wait to be consumed along with every other form of intelligent life in the galaxy. President Kim looked around the room at the faces of world leaders who had spent their careers dealing with human conflicts. None of them had ever imagined they would need to make decisions about the survival of their entire species. The vote was unanimous. Humanity would accept the Keeper's alliance and prepare for war against the Devourer. The transformation would begin immediately. Every military base, research facility, and manufacturing center on Earth would be converted to support the war effort. Humanity's destiny was no longer in their own hands. They were now soldiers in an ancient war that would determine the fate of all intelligent life in the universe. The countdown to humanity's greatest test had begun. Prime Minister Ya Young-lim stood before the largest gathering of world leaders in human history. The emergency summit in Geneva brought together presidents, prime ministers, and monarchs from every nation on Earth. The decision they made in the next few hours would determine whether humanity survived the coming war. The Keepers had made their offer crystal clear. They would share technology that could advance human civilization by thousands of years overnight. Faster than light travel weapons that could crack planets' energy sources that would last forever. But the price was total commitment to fight. The Devourer. Dr. Sung-Ho Kim led the newly formed Human Keeper Research Initiative. His team of scientists was working around the clock to understand alien technology that seemed to violate every known law of physics. The Keeper ships could manipulate gravity, bend space-time, and draw energy directly from empty space. The learning curve is almost impossible, he reported to the world leaders via video link. Their technology doesn't use circuits or mechanical parts. Everything responds to thought and intention rather than physical controls. Captain Mi-young Park had volunteered to be the first human to pilot a Keeper-enhanced vessel. The destroyer Soul had been completely rebuilt using alien technology in just 2 weeks. The transformation was so complete that only the ship's basic shape remained recognizable when Mi-young first connected her mind to the ship's control system. She felt like she was becoming part of the vessel itself. Every system responded to her thoughts and emotions. The ship could accelerate to light speed in seconds or hover motionless above a planet's surface, but the mental link was exhausting. Human brains weren't designed to process the vast amount of information required to control such advanced technology. Many test pilots suffered severe headaches or temporary memory loss after just a few minutes of connection. Admiral Jin Seok-yang discovered that the most successful pilots were surprisingly young children, and teenagers adapted to the mental interface much faster than experienced military officers. Their minds were more flexible and less set in conventional thinking patterns. This created a disturbing situation. Earth's most advanced warships would need to be piloted by people who were barely old enough to drive cars. The thought of sending children into battle against the Devourer horrified many world leaders, but there was no choice. The Keepers made it clear that their technology could only be operated by minds that weren't locked into rigid patterns of thought. Adults who had spent years learning conventional piloting techniques struggled to adapt to systems that responded to pure intention. Dr. Yuna Cho made another troubling discovery while studying the Devourer's approach pattern. The entity wasn't just moving toward Earth, it was growing larger and more powerful with each solar system it consumed along the way. The Devourer that reaches Earth will be significantly stronger than the one that destroyed Centauri Prime, she warned. It has consumed at least 12 more civilizations since then. Each conquest adds to its knowledge and capabilities. The transformation of Earth's military proceeded at an incredible pace. Factories around the world stopped producing consumer goods and began manufacturing components for Keeper-enhanced weapons. Ships, aircraft, and ground vehicles were rebuilt using alien technology that seemed like magic to human engineers. But the most important changes were happening to the people themselves. Humans who volunteered for the neural interface training found their minds expanding in ways they never imagined possible. They could process information at superhuman speeds and see patterns that were invisible to normal perception. The side effects were concerning, though. Many volunteers reported strange dreams and visions. Others claimed they could sense the thoughts and emotions of people around them. A few suffered complete mental breakdowns when their minds couldn't handle the alien technology. Dr. Temin Khan continued studying the Keeper database to learn more about the Devourer's capabilities. The entity had evolved strategies specifically designed to counter every defensive tactic used by previous civilizations. It can predict our responses based on the behavior patterns of species it has already consumed. He reported that means conventional military strategies will fail before we even try them. The Keepers revealed that humanity's best chance lay in unpredictability. The Devourer had never encountered a species that thought like humans did. Most intelligent civilizations were logical and methodical in their approach to warfare, but humans were different. They could be irrational, creative, and completely unexpected in their tactics. The Devourer's vast database of military knowledge might actually work against it when facing opponents who didn't follow any logical patterns. Training camps were established around the world to prepare human pilots for the new technology, but the training was unlike anything in military history. Recruits had to learn to think in multiple dimensions simultaneously in control machines that responded to pure thought. Many couldn't handle the mental strain. The dropout rate was over 60%, and some volunteers suffered permanent psychological damage, but those who succeeded became something new, a fusion of human creativity and alien technology that had never existed before. Captain Sojin Lee was among the first to master the advanced systems. She could pilot her enhanced fighter through maneuvers that would have killed any normal human. The ship moved like an extension of her body, responding to her thoughts faster than conscious decision-making. But the real breakthrough came when human pilots began improvising tactics that the Keepers had never considered. Humans started using their ships in ways the alien designers never intended, turning scientific vessels into weapons and cargo ships into fighters. The Keepers were amazed by human adaptability. Their technology was being used in ways they hadn't imagined in millions of years of existence. It gave them hope that the Devourer might finally face an opponent it couldn't predict or counter. As the months passed, Earth's defensive preparations intensified. Every major city was surrounded by energy shields powered by Keeper technology. The moon was converted into a massive weapons platform bristling with guns that could destroy asteroids, but the real innovation was in the integration of human and Keeper minds. Volunteers underwent procedures that permanently linked their consciousness to the alien database. They became living bridges between the two species, sharing knowledge and perspectives in real time. Commander Dongmin Yu discovered that this mental fusion created entirely new ways of thinking about warfare. The combined human-keeper consciousness could process battle scenarios at superhuman speed while maintaining the unpredictability that made humans dangerous opponents. The final phase of preparation involved the most difficult decision of all. Earth's population would need to be partially evacuated to hidden colonies throughout the solar system. If the battle went badly, humanity needed survivors to continue the fight, but millions of people refused to leave. They wanted to stay and defend their homeworld, even if it meant certain death. The courage and determination shown by ordinary citizens impressed even the ancient keepers, who had seen countless civilizations face extinction as the Devourer drew closer to Earth's solar system. The final preparations were completed. Humanity had been transformed from a single-planet species into something unprecedented in galactic history. They were now part of an alliance that combined ancient wisdom with fresh aggressive thinking. The question remained whether it would be enough. The Devourer had never been stopped before, and it was stronger now than ever. But for the first time in cosmic history, it would face opponents who refused to follow any rules. Fleet Admiral Hyun-Jung Kim stood in the command center of the massive space station that had been built in Earth's orbit. Around him floated holographic displays showing the positions of over 10,000 ships. The combined human-keeper armada represented the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. The Devourer had finally arrived in Earth's solar system, and it was even more terrifying than the Keepers had described. The entity appeared as a writhing mass of dark energy that stretched across millions of miles. Its presence warped space itself, causing strange gravitational effects throughout the solar system. Dr. Changsu Park monitored the readings from his sensor station. The Devourer's energy signature was off the charts. It had grown enormously during its journey, consuming 17 more star systems along the way. Each conquest had added to its power and knowledge. The entity moves like a living thing, Park reported to Admiral Kim, but it's also clearly artificial. The Devourer is both biological and technological in ways our science can't fully understand. Captain Sojin Lee piloted her enhanced fighter in formation with thousands of other human and Keeper vessels. The mental link between all pilots created a shared consciousness that allowed the fleet to move as a single entity. Each ship knew instantly what every other ship was thinking and planning. The Devourer's first attack came without warning. A beam of pure energy lanced out from the dark mass and struck Earth's moon. The ancient satellite, which had watched over humanity for millions of years, simply ceased to exist. It was converted to raw energy in seconds. The destruction of the moon sent shock waves through both fleets. The Devourer had demonstrated power beyond imagination, turning a celestial body into fuel with casual ease. Admiral Kim felt fear grip his heart, but he pushed it down. The battle plan had accounted for losses, even catastrophic ones. The moon's sacrifice had served a purpose. It showed the Devourer's preferred attack method and energy conversion. Raytal ships initiate defensive formation. Omega, he commanded. The combined fleet formed a protective sphere around Earth, every vessel's shields linked together to create a barrier that encompassed the entire planet. Devourer's next attack came as a wave of dark energy that crashed against the combined shields. The barrier held, but the strain was enormous. Many smaller ships were destroyed instantly as their power systems overloaded. From the incredible force, Commander Dongmin Yu realized that conventional defensive tactics would fail within minutes. The Devourer's power was growing with each attack as it absorbed energy from the destroyed ships. We need to implement the Paradox Protocol, he announced over the communication network. It's our only chance. The Paradox Protocol was the most dangerous strategy ever conceived by human military planners. It involved creating localized contradictions in spacetime that would force the Devourer to collapse from multiple dimensions into normal space where it could be attacked, Captain. Myung Park led the first wave of ships equipped with dimensional disruption weapons. The technology was barely understood by human scientists, and using it could tear holes in reality itself, but it was the only weapon that might hurt the Devourer. Ship phased partially out of normal spacetime, becoming a quantum ghost that existed in multiple dimensions. Simultaneously, the sensation was indescribable, like being torn apart and put back together. Every few seconds, Park's fighter squadron began their attack run, diving directly toward the Devourer's core. The entity seemed to notice them for the first time, tentacles of dark energy reaching out to swat the tiny ships like insects, but the human pilots did something the Devourer had never encountered before. Instead of trying to avoid the attacks, they flew directly into them using their ships' dimensional phasing ability to pass through the energy beams without taking damage. The Devourer paused in confusion. It had faced millions of different species over eons of existence, but none had ever used their own technology in such reckless and unpredictable ways. Lieutenant Commander Bo Ram Yoon commanded a squadron of dimensional bombers. She led her ships in a spiral pattern around the Devourer, dropping quantum disruption charges that created small tears in spacetime. Each explosion forced a small part of the Devourer to collapse back into normal space where conventional weapons could damage it. For the first time in cosmic history, the ancient enemy was actually being hurt. The entity responded with fury, unleashing attacks that turned entire sections of space into burning plasma, but the human pilots adapted their tactics in real time, using their mental link to share information and coordinate responses faster than any individual consciousness could process. Dr. Sung-ho Kim monitored the battle from Earth's surface, watching as his quantum calculations played out in reality. The dimensional attacks were working, but they were also destabilizing local spacetime. If they continued much longer, they might tear a permanent hole in the universe. The battle reached its climax when Admiral Subin Kim led a suicide squadron of volunteers directly into the Devourer's core. Her ships were equipped with experimental quantum bombs that would collapse their own dimensional matrices in a chain reaction. Subin had volunteered for the mission, knowing it would mean certain death. Her last transmission to the fleet was simple and direct: for Earth, for humanity, for all intelligent life. Her squadron disappeared into the Devourer's dark mass, and for a moment nothing happened. Then space itself seemed to scream as the quantum bombs detonated in a cascade of dimensional collapse. The Devourer's form began to unravel as parts of its existence were forced back into normal spacetime. The entity tried to adapt to the new type of attack, but human tactics were too chaotic and unpredictable for its vast database to counter. Captain Chang Wu-shin watched in amazement as the Devourer began to fall apart. The ancient enemy that had destroyed thousands of civilizations was being defeated by a species that had barely learned to travel between planets. The final collapse came suddenly. The Devourer's consciousness scattered across multiple dimensions as its quantum coherence failed completely. What remained was only empty space and the wreckage of the greatest battle in galactic history. The surviving ships of the Human Keeper Alliance floated in stunned silence. The impossible had happened. The Devourer was gone, destroyed by tactics so insane that even its vast intelligence couldn't comprehend them. Admiral Hyun Jun Kim looked at the casualty reports with mixed emotions. Humanity had lost 60% of its fleet and millions of lives, but they had saved not just Earth, but every intelligent species in the galaxy. The Keepers wept for the first time in 50,000 years. Their long nightmare was finally over. Thanks to humanity's courage and unpredictable nature, the greatest threat in cosmic history had been eliminated. In the aftermath of the battle, Earth became the center of a new galactic civilization. The surviving Keeper knowledge was combined with human innovation to create technologies beyond imagination, faster than light communication allowed instant contact between distant worlds. But more importantly, humanity had proven that intelligence and free will could triumph over even the most overwhelming force. The galaxy was safe for new civilizations to evolve and grow without fear of the Devourer's return. The species that had once been confined to a single world had become the defenders of all intelligent life. Captain Sojin Lee summed up humanity's transformation in her final battle report. "We were just trying to survive," she wrote. "But somewhere along the way we became something more. We became hope." The age of human expansion began as Earth's children spread throughout the galaxy, carrying with them the lesson they had learned in their darkest hour, sometimes the most unlikely. Heroes are exactly what the universe needs.